He told me, he was like, at most, this is going to be a fad for a year and then it'll die out. So just ask yourself, do you really want to do something that's only going to last for a year? And so with this professor saying that, like, made me dig my heels into the ground. Yeah, even if you're right, I'm still going to do this.
Welcome to Heartful Wonders, where we ask the question, what does it look like to really follow your heart? I'm excited for you to be here. Hi, Jess.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Of course. I'm so glad that we're doing this.
Me too.
You've put out so much amazing work and so much of you out there that to have this opportunity to kind of go a little below. I mean, I know you're not surface, but like below that even.
Yeah.
And understand a little bit more like what's under Jess here? Like what's making you move and tick? And I'm just really excited for that.
Me too. And I'll tell you, I want to know, that's why I love your podcast. I want to know the same about you, because I feel my Marco Polo has like changed. And you told me that I don't have to talk about Marco Polo, but I am. Changed my relationship to my family, to my friends. Just so much of my like relational capital that I have today is through what you created. So before we start, I just want to say thank you. Like, I'm closer to my dad. I'm closer to my sister. My dad talks to his brothers. They have a brother Marco Polo chat for years. And he told me today when I was talking to you, he was like, tell her I have a relationship with my brother because of you. And so I just want you to receive that too before we start.
Thank you. I love it. Okay, so I really wanted to know how Jess got started on this journey of following her heart and discovery.
Yeah, I think my sister, Heather, she's amazing, and she's a year and a half older than me. And I always kind of felt like as a kid, I was Heather Ekstrom's sister and not Jess. Yeah. And she was student body president. I mean, just captain of this and the cutest girl that all the boys liked. And so I think, for a while, I was just kind of okay with feeling or being second. And she never made me feel that way. My parents never made me feel this way. It was just what I kind of assigned myself. Mm-hmm. And then we were in high school, and this was after my dad had started his business. And that was, definitely a flicker of entrepreneurship. Whenever you see it up close, you're like, oh, that's possible for me. And we had a really just wild scandal happen in our family. I'm trying to think of like where to start with it. So my sister and I were coming, downstairs for breakfast and found that just our normal routine was off. Like, my parents are usually dressed to work out in the morning, get us breakfast. We have this like kind of family thing before my sister and I go to school. And just this particular morning, December 2008, it just was not there. It was just came downstairs. The Today Show wasn't on. Things that we typically did weren't there. And I was like, what's going on? And found out that my parents were invested in Bernie Madoff, who stole $64 billion in his Ponzi scheme. And Bernie is my mom's uncle. And so it was like, just this really wild time for our family. And obviously the financial side, but just more around like the betrayal and the media and, it was just wild. And so I think it really, this whole path that I've been on, starting Headbands of Hope and then, becoming a speaker and doing mic drop workshop, started with this idea that it was like, I want to like do something so good that it almost covers up this bad.
Aw,
And
Jess.
even though that's how it began,
Yeah, of
uh, and no one ever assigned me that.
course. Yeah.
But it was just like the task I took on for myself. And then it kind of took on a new life from there.
How old were you at that time?
I was when I was like junior, senior in high school. So yeah, like 16, 17
Wow.
years old. Um, and then I just kind of went on this pursuit of trying to make something of myself, like uh that was great. But then also, in my 30s now, there's what I explore now is like, okay, well, what's enough? Have you proven yourself? Can you be proud for a second? Um, so it was a tumultuous beginning, to say the least.
Yeah. Wow. I find that so fascinating because that at 16, that's such a tender age.
Mm,
Because on one
mhm.
hand, I mean, I have a 16-year-old, and it's like
Yeah.
there's a pulling away from the parents, but at the same time, like the responsibility and
Yes.
this thing happening in your family. I just, I really resonate with the part where you said nobody told you to do this, and you just took it upon yourself um, to kind of help your family in that way.
Yeah. And it's like we assign ourselves these roles that no one asks us to do, and we feel so responsible to fulfill those
Yeah,
roles. Like no one was asking me to right the wrong, and
yeah,
or save everyone or make enough money to where it covered it up, but it was just like that was my fantasy. And that was what I ran with. But I will say one of the things that did come out of it was this sense of I don't want to just make money and I don't want to just make a living. If I want to do something big in a way that uh, I could tell my kids about one day and be really proud of, like that moves the needle for something or someone. So I think anything that I've ever started or been involved in, like, yes, it was started because I was pursuing this, trying to make something of myself. But I also did really want to make a difference and see
hmm
like what I could do.
yeah,
Um, so yeah, it's kind of a both and like there's a little bit of a selfish part of starting something to want people to be proud of me. But then there was also a part of me that really wanted to start something that made a difference for people.
yeah. It's so interesting because, like, you know, you're so successful, and and by lots of different standards, and of course, like that experience was sounds like an initial piece that like
Hmm.
drove a lot of this. And there's so much good that came out of what your mom's uncle did
Hmm.
because of how many people you're helping now and so on.
Hmm. Thanks. I appreciate
I
that.
mean, truly, like thousands of
Yeah.
women are benefiting from that.
Hmm.
And I'm also curious, like, if you ever wonder, like, what did it cost you personally, if anything at all? Like the little Jess, the
Yeah.
16-year-old Jess, if there's a cost to that.
I had a complicated relationship with money for
Mm,
a while. And if everyone has a money story,
mhm.
and um, it's such a like sensitive, abstract, like just has so many emotional attachments to it. Um, but I think like I had even when I wasn't making money or when I was making money, it was like all gonna go away. Um, because that's what I saw happen. And so I think in business in the beginning, I had like such a scarcity mindset of like, we can't, spend anything. We can't, do this. Um, and then my husband, it's funny because when I met him, like he kind of had the opposite upbringing where they, and I wouldn't call them like, you know, poor or anything, but they didn't have a ton of money. And then his dad did really well later on. And so it was kind of this reverse where it was like we were wealthy and then we weren't. And I'm not saying that at any point I was like wondering if food was going to be on the table. So I don't
Mhm.
want to put it that way. Uh, and so my mindset was it's all going to go away. His mindset was it could come at any time. And so I think like meeting him and hearing and having his optimism of like, yeah, we're just going to figure it out and something really great could happen. Was a shift of like a story that happened for me. And of course, I still have a complicated relationship to money. What's enough? Am I making enough? Am I doing enough? Am I putting enough away for my kids? Am I living enough? But he really helped me enjoy it and be more abundant. We also lived in a RV for 3 years for my first book. And so we always joke, it's like, well, shit hits the fan. Like we know we can live in an RV. We were so happy. So yeah.
The thing that I wanted to kind of double click on, or whatever the less nerdy way of saying that is.
Spoken like a true tech founder. Yeah.
I'm like, wait, say I'm a tech founder without saying I'm a tech founder. Is this piece of like knowing that the thing that's motivating you on one hand is this desire to make it right for your family, and also wanting to make impact. And how do you also like not lose sight of just Jess in that? Have you reconciled that, or like have you curious what your journey has been there?
I think it was how I found Jess, like not how I lost her. And I think that it was so beneficial to start a company and start pursuing these things in my teens and my 20s, because anyone in that season of life is just gathering data and looking for answers and figuring out, do I belong here? Do I belong there? And so I think I didn't have certainty at all over who I was. And I still don't, but I think it was like that time period in my 20s and, pursuing this stuff and recovering from Bernie. I think it all just led me to me. And I think that even if I started something for not like the most greatest reason, which was to try to right a wrong, an open door was an open door. And I remember when I got an internship at the Today Shows, because they like wanted to get to Bernie. And so, it was Matt Lauer, and they, gave me an internship. I was an aspiring journalist. And then I felt like such a fraud, because I was like, I'm only here. They don't believe in me. I'm only here because they want to get to Bernie, and they think that I'm the answer to that. And then someone said, yeah, so what? Open door is an open door. Like, you're here. Do something with it. And I'll never forget that.
That just hit me so hard. It's such a good reminder that there's a reason why you're in whatever room that you're in, regardless of how you got there. And taking like a beat to just be like, okay, I was landed this opportunity.
Yeah.
However hard won it was, or however I got here, or whatever. Winning a lottery, or being born in the right family or not the right family, or whatever. How can I make the most of it now?
Like I could spend my time here thinking about how I shouldn't be here.
Yeah.
Or I could spend my time here making something about how I already am. I think about that too, just coming from a place of privilege and being able to start a business because my dad was my first investor, and the privilege that I had growing up, and my parents sent me to private school. Like I just had a lot of privilege. And sometimes I'm like, well, other people like didn't have that and they start businesses, or and I think that my path wasn't tough enough. Like I should, and it's like, well, this was my path. I'm here and I'm going to do something about it. And that might mean that I'm also just like, I invest in, minority women-owned companies, because I'm like, I know that that wasn't my path. That's yours. You have it tougher. So um, it's interesting when you kind of start to compare hard and realize it's
Don't do
just
it.
everyone's living in their own version of hard. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I also think I just think it's super impressive that, again, like as a teenager, to be hit with this kind of scandal or this kind of like rug
Mm-hmm.
being pulled from under you. One could have gone in this direction of, I can't trust anybody ever again.
Mm-hmm.
And then being told on today's show, or if realizing that you only got the internship because of this, again, it could have been like, I can't trust anybody. But
Mm-hmm.
somehow you managed to turn both of those things, and I'm sure you had more, into lessons or like opportunities. How is it? Just through somebody saying the right thing at the right time, or is there like a more of a practice or something you notice in yourself that helped you do that?
I think that my parents really helped me have, maybe they don't know this, but helped me have this delusional optimism. And it is, I feel like very much it's gonna, if there's something I want to do, like, gonna figure it out. Might have to kiss a couple frogs, but I'm gonna figure it out. And I was really appreciative, and I think about this now raising, I have like 2 little kids, and think about this raising my kids now is to how to not swoop in and solve all their problems and like let them have insane delusional beliefs that they're gonna meet Ariel today at school, and um let them dream and let them be disappointed and let them keep figuring it out, because I feel like that's what my parents did, was they never planted like, well, like these seeds of doubt. And they also started a business themselves and that I watched. And uh so I had like a front row seat to someone going for it. But
Hmm.
I think a lot about delusional optimism of just like, I don't think some of the people that make it big have the best ideas or the best systems or the best resources. It's just this delusion and maybe even obsession. I don't know if you can relate to that.
Yes. I'm wondering, little Jess, what was her first like delusional, optimistic idea that her parents did not shut down or handled
Yeah.
with grace?
Oh my gosh. So there was quite a few things. One of them was uh I was like really obsessed with clothes, but my parents weren't, I didn't have a job, and so wasn't gonna like go shopping, but I really wanted to wear like, it was when the juicy jumpsuits were
Mm.
in. And so I found this website called Swap Style, and it was kind of in like the MySpace era, and you could swap clothes with people on the internet. And also sell clothes. And so I was just constantly, I set up a like studio in my bedroom with a white sheet where I would photograph the clothes on the digital camera. You would set a value to it and then trade with people. And I think that they just like, and then that turned into like an eBay thing where I would sell my like toys on eBay and American Girl doll stuff. And then I started selling my sister's American Girl dolls and got in a lot of trouble. But it was, I think the first time they were just like, yeah, here's some shipping labels. Like, go for it. They could have been like, Jess, like, are you really, trading your overalls for like a sandals that the strap is broken with someone in Iowa? But they were just like, let me be disappointed when I open the package, or let me figure it out.
Yeah.
Um, I haven't thought about that in so long, and you just pulled that memory out of me. I was like, the swap style, that's kind of where it started.
Yeah, that's so cool. Because you're right.
Yeah.
Like another version would have been like, that's a terrible idea. People can lie to you.
Yeah.
And instead,
Yes, totally. I remember when I started doing eBay, when I was a kid and selling things on eBay, and I sold a guitar that I didn't use anymore. Um, and my dad would take me to the post office to ship. And I realized that I didn't charge the person who bought the guitar for shipping. And basically, the price that he bought it for was less than what it cost to like
yeah.
ship this huge guitar. And my dad was just like, okay, so you lost, $7 on this one. Like, what are you taking away from this? I'm like, well, I need to figure out what shipping is before I do this. But I'm just, and of course there's like a certain extent letting people fail, but it was like, oh, okay. Like going to the post office, recognizing that shipping a guitar is not easy. Good learning experience.
Yeah. That's awesome. Because it's like not everybody has parents who are that supportive of their
They've been
endeavors,
great.
and that makes the job so much easier, or not the job, the
Totally.
pursuits are so much easier. I'm
Yeah.
wondering if we keep pulling on that thread, was there a time when one of your ideas was crazy enough that even your parents or people around you were like, are you sure you want to do this?
I never got that from my parents. I did get that from other people. When I first got the idea for my first company, Headbands of Hope, it was towards the end of college. And I remember meeting with like a business professor to talk about what do I need? What could I do? And I remember he told me, he was like, at most this is going to be a fad for a year and then it'll die out. Yeah. He goes, so just ask yourself, do you really want to do something that's only going to last for a year?
Wow.
Yeah,
Ouch.
I
Especially the
know.
business
I know.
professor. Oof.
I was like, "Ooh." Um, and then it just shows, like, how bad you want it in those scenarios.
Yeah.
I feel like there's so many people that say, like, that quote, like, "What would you do if you knew you couldn't fail?" And I get it, but I just think about, like, what would you do if you knew that you were gonna fail and it's worth it?
Mhm.
Because everything that I've ever done, whether it's Headbands of Hope, Mic Drop Workshop, writing a book, has cost 3 times more than I budgeted, has taken 3 times longer than I thought, has been 3 times harder than I thought. And so with this professor saying that, like, do you wanna do this? Um, Made me dig my heels into the ground and be like, yeah, even if you're right, I'm still gonna do this. So
And
it's not like a matter of what would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? What would you still do if you knew that you would? Like, what's worth it enough to you? Is what I think about a lot now.
can you break that down a little bit more? Because I really love what you're saying, and I can just imagine when somebody says like, "What would you do even if I knew it would fail?"
Mhm.
How do you find like what do you look for in yourself to know that you still want to do it? Because probably there are some things you're like, okay, yeah, it's not worth it.
Not worth it. And that's happened. I tried to start like a journaling app during the pandemic and I was like, "You know what? Not for me. I'll leave the tech to you." Yeah, and like the hard things weren't exciting to me and take like speaking for example. That's a big part of my life now, but it is a lot of rejection. Like, there's even though I'm, you know, one of the most booked female speakers in the
Yeah.
world, I still get, we're looking for someone more famous. We're looking for someone, more notable. Oh, you're outside of our budget. And I know that I would rather um, pursue this getting the nose than not pursue it at all. Like I'd rather be in the game getting rejected than wonder like, could I do that or could I be there? So I think that that's for anyone listening, it's like what pursuit is worth the rejection?
Mhm.
Um, because I know for me, it's like I know that failure is always going to feel better than regret to me because at least with failure, I have the data and I have the experience and I'm not living in the world of what if.
I know you've been speaking for years, so this
Mhm.
is sort of like not new for you. And yet I imagine there's still like something that happens to you, like a feeling or
Mhm.
something. What does that feel like? And how do you overcome that? How do you keep going still?
Yeah. I want to tell you about what it felt like before and then what it feels like now because it's so different. Before, when I would get rejected for a speaking opportunity, it felt like, you know, when you're a kid and they're like picking sports and you're like the last, I mean, I have this, for sports, I was actually picked because I was pretty good. But like there was this dance where like the boys had to come across the room and like ask the girls. It
God.
was so stupid. Now looking back, I'm like, how did we let that happen? And I was like one of the girls that didn't get picked.
Oh no.
And it's just this like sinking feeling. What did I do wrong? You know, why am I not like likable? And, you know, I'd feel just kind of left at the altar and felt personally rejected. And now I've been doing this long enough to, one, just like pure repetition of anything gets you better at it. But I think my whole thought around getting selected for speaking changes because I no longer go into these conversations or um uh phone calls where they're considering whether they're booking me as I hope they pick me or I hope they select me. It's is this the right partnership? And that goes both ways. And so I think if we enter into like conversations or scenarios that are like, I want them to select me and make or you feel like you're asking for a favor when you're asking to speak, it's just like puts this power dynamic in your head.
Mhm.
And so now I know that I'm not going to be for everyone. And also everyone's not going to be for me. I'm not going to lie that I'm not like skipping and cheering when I get a no, but it doesn't have nearly the sting, or the
Mhm.
sting is like a couple seconds and then I move on.
Mhm.
Um, I think something that, you know, someone was like asking me about imposter syndrome today. And I think one of the things that helps with that like failure, that mistake, or that imposter syndrome is um, being like too uh, passionate to notice. Like, I just don't have time to sulk in the no, or
Mhm.
I just don't have a lot of time to think about how awkward I was on that
Mhm.
interview or that phone call because I'm just so excited about what I'm doing over here. And so there wasn't like a mantra or a mental gymnastics that I had to go through to get there. It was like letting the passion for the good be louder than the inner critiques.
Mhm.
Um, and I think that's what's helped me more than any kind of like post-it note I could put on my computer.
How did you get there? Like, how did you go from like, ouch, it stinks to, okay, I just have to be, remember that I like the passion, I can feel the passion more.
I think I had to really explore it when I was sort of teaching other women how to do it.
Ah.
You know, I have thousands of women that are getting rejected for speaking gigs and getting speaking gigs. And so I really had to explore what my advice would be for them and then take it myself.
Mm.
My advice to them is like, yeah, you're not going to get every single opportunity. And there's been events that have said no to me one year and then yes to me another. And they had a theme that worked better. They had, you know, a speaker that was a good compliment to me. And so much of it is not you, it's timing. And
Mhm.
I think because I had to teach that, it was like I needed to hear it too.
Mhm. I've heard people say, I can't tell what's going on in my body, or it's hard for me to know if I want something. And like, people are just like, a lot of people are just like in their heads or thinking. And
Yeah.
part of my motivation to be asking these questions is to help people get in touch more of like, how do they know? Like, how do you make a
hmm
decision?
As far as it comes to like, how do I know if I'm pursuing the right thing? Um, Something that I write about in my book that could be helpful for people that I run this test on myself all the time is I call it the purpose test. And you imagine like the thing that you're chasing, the thing that you want. And so you can do this right now if you're listening.
Yeah.
Imagine whatever it is. And then imagine that you got it. You got the email, you got the phone call, you got the notification, whatever it might be. But no one knew it was you. You had to remain anonymous. You couldn't put your name on it. You couldn't share. You couldn't put it on LinkedIn. And then ask yourself, would I still pursue this if I had to remain anonymous? And it's, for me, such a good gut check because I can go get so swept up in how things look versus how things feel. And there's certain things in my job that I would still pursue wholeheartedly if my name wasn't on it. Helping women get on stages or speak with confidence at work, I don't need to be recognized with that. That just is awesome. And I want to do it. But then there's things like, my book coming out. And I'm like, I got to get the New York Times, bestseller. I'm like, why? I don't. I can just write a book that I think helps people. And so it's such a good gut check for me if it helps anyone.
I freaking love that so much because it really, I mean, you're touching this here. I know you've touched on this before about external versus internal motivation and seeing how, like, what are the things that are internally lighting you up, whatever that looks like for you. One of the things that I've been doing that might be interesting to you is doing like an energy audit at the end of the day.
Oh, tell me. Yeah.
So I actually keep track of on every day what kind of a day it was. And just like from 1 to 5 being great day. And it's purely based on energy, like not productivity or not productivity, because I am really good at being very productive. And for me, it's been at times at expense of my own energy. And so this has been like a way to set a system in place to say, okay, I got a lot of stuff done, but was it energy giving?
Yeah. Have you found any trends since you've been doing that?
Yeah. So one of the things I learned is doing this podcast is super energy up for me. I love everything about it. I love finding the right speaker. I love doing the research. I love the conversation. Like it is like afterwards, I feel like I am like a next level energy. It is so uplifting for me. I freaking love it. And as you were doing the test, I was like, oh yeah, if it wasn't my face, it was like somehow altered my voice and it was somebody else, I would totally still do it. It is so much fun.
That is awesome. Yeah, like last night, we run this program called Mic Drop Academy where it's like a small group cohort where women have a story and they come in and they're wanting to, share it and build a keynote and get on stages um and so it's Wednesday nights and I could not sleep last night because I was just brimming after last night was like keynote night. So it's like really getting into people's stories and like the takeaways for the audience. And it was just like, I'm such an early bird to bed and I was just up so late because I just had so much energy. And so I love putting a number to it. I'm going to try that.
I want to circle back to the thing you talked about before, the worth piece. Because
yes, I definitely want to.
I was watching one of your videos and I was like, oh my gosh, I got to make sure Jess and I talk about this. It was the video that you talked about where you found out that the male speaker was being paid $50,000 and you got paid $8,500.
Yes.
And I thought that was like, first, a girl.
I know.
And then I was like, okay, cool. How is it true that I'm doing that to myself now? And I was curious about, for you, what, like, since learning that, how are you valuing yourself now? Like, what are the things you put in place to sort of not ensure, but like do more to align your value with the financial value that you're getting?
Couple things. One thing I realized was like, it's not his fault that he got, like, he's not the villain here.
Sure.
It's, he asked for it. I didn't. And the other thing that I started to do and what happened on this phone call where the event planner told me what I was paid versus what he was paid, she was like, but we did audience surveys and you ranked higher. And so I started collecting data every single time I spoke, I used this thing called Talkadot in my talks where it polls the audience when they're done as to what they thought and ranks all these different things. And so now I have thousands of data points, both like, percentages of people in certain industries, anecdotal testimonials. And so, but it takes a while to get to that. And so now I feel like I have like the evidence to back up a fee. But in the beginning, I think like an important thing that I had to remember when it comes to fee and valuing time, and this goes for speaking, it can go for really just any time you're like trading your brain for for money, is that, they're not paying for like the 1 hour that you're on the phone call or the 1 hour that you're on stage. They're paying for three different things. They're paying for the experience that you had before, the life you lived that it makes you able to get on the stage. They're paying for the time that you're on the stage or on the call or whatever you're doing. But the most important thing that they're paying for, where your value really comes from, is the aftermath of after everyone leaves. So I started thinking less about like time exchange and started thinking more about value exchange of like, what is the aftermath of me speaking? And then that becomes where I can attach greater value to it. So when someone is consulting or can I pick your brain or whatever it might be, it's not like, oh, well, is it 15 minutes or is it 30? It's like, it's all based on the aftermath. And so that's what I think about a lot now is like collecting the data and then selling the aftermath, not the time itself.
That's awesome, Jess. I love how you think about that because so much of, like, for me, Heartful wonders, my hope is that people will choose to follow their heart. And oftentimes the first step, there's not like a security of financial, but, potentially. And so kind of setting some things in place so that you can provide some support and be able to value your time. And I love this, the parts, especially I want to kind of pull for myself and others. It's like your experience from the past, even if you're starting something new now, the experience you've had so far, even if you're not an expert, you are because you've had those experience doing this, and that's worth it.
It's worth even your mistakes. It's like helping people avoid your mistakes is worth something. With you being a successful woman in tech, have you had those scenarios where you were treated differently or even like, I don't know if you've fundraised or just stuff like that?
I've been really fortunate because the last 15 years I've been doing it with my husband. And we agree we're going to split everything 50-50. And so in terms of that, it's been a great privilege. I've definitely had not fun experiences as a female in tech in general, but it has nothing to do with pay specifically, at least not right now.
Yeah.
But the thing where this comes for me, actually, what's really interesting is people reach out to me for questions and wanting to spend time with me. And I think there's similarity with you wanting to do good in the world. Like that is also my huge motivation. And so I tend to just give my time away. I'm like, of course I'll have a conversation. Of course. And then I've just been recently thinking about this, like this is not sustainable. Like I actually don't want to keep doing it that way, but finding a way that feels aligned with me wanting to help specifically more women and especially women of color. How do I set it up so that it feels mutually nurturing, even if money is on exchange? But how do we set that up? So I've been thinking a lot about that. So this conversation is helpful to me.
Yeah. It's really tough to assign value to your time or your brain. One of the things that helped for me when I was doing Headbands of Hope, we would get requests for donations all the time for headbands. And I would do it. I would send headbands to this school fundraiser, send headbands to this, breast cancer awareness. Our mission was to helping kids with illnesses. And so every time I would veer off of that, I was taking away something that could have furthered the mission that we started out to be. So we started to have to say no to any donations that weren't to kids with illnesses. And then when it comes to like my career now, I wanted to have that same kind of focus of like a clear yes and a clear no as to where I'm okay giving away my time. And so I made the decision of like, I care a lot about young girls. And so I allocate a certain amount of time every year and a certain amount of free speaking gigs every year for any like schools or organizations that benefit young girls. And so it's helped me because I don't just feel like an ass being like, I can't do anything, for free. It's like, no, I have the lane that I'm picking and I'm going to stick to that. Um, and it's just helped a lot have that clarity, like you're saying, the clarity that you have around who you want to help.
Mm-hmm. And so what does it look like to follow your heart and to follow your joy these days?
I think that I'm at a really great and interesting point in my career right now where I felt like my biggest currency and my most important currency was money, which don't get me wrong, it still is. But now I think that my biggest important currency is time. And so like pursuing joy these days is more around life design of time. So, we're recording, this podcast in March. I'm thinking about summer hours. We have a lake house that I want to spend time at. How do I want to just create more time and protect that time? That's what I'm focused on and pursuing right now.
How are you doing that?
A lot of it is building a team, which we've made like a lot of great hires at Mic Drop.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's also just like the personal boundaries and getting away from my own mental need to feel important and to fill empty calendar spaces. So most of it is me. I have a great team. It just like trying to be okay with a little bit of stillness.
It's so good. Just like it's so parallel to me because I found there's a part of me that almost feels addicted to impact.
Yes, that's such a good way to put it.
And I think behind that is fear of stillness and fear of like, but can I really just be in the forest?
Yes.
Can I really just do nothing?
Yeah.
And just, is that enough? Like, shouldn't I've been given so much. Shouldn't I do more? And so it's cool to hear you talk about that too.
I think that's why postpartum was like also so hard for me because it forced me to like sit there and rock a baby and be still. And it was so transformative for me because and I definitely had, postpartum depression and with my first. But it was also just like such an awakening of everything that I identified myself as productive, high achieving, quick, social, relational, fit, whatever it was, like all of that was, threatened or paused by motherhood in the beginning. And it just took me really having to like get to find who the new me was at a different speed.
How did you do that? Because the postpartum period and postpartum depression is so much more prevalent than
insane.
I realized until I had my kids and realized how hard the trimester after having a kid is.
Oh my gosh. Everyone talked about labor.
Yeah.
Oh, the labor, this, that. I'm like, that. And luckily, privileged, my labor wasn't eventful. But the postpartum part, I was like, everything felt so final. Like I'm never going to sleep again, or I'm always going to be feeding someone, and I just couldn't see with my first, like the forest through the trees because I didn't have any metrics or like what's beyond this. So anything that I was in felt forever.
Yeah.
And I actually, when about 5 months after my daughter was born, my first, I signed up for stand-up comedy classes because I was like, I need something to just scare me, get me out of my seriousness, like my head, and get me laughing again, get me a beginner again. And so that really, with Lexapro, don't get me wrong, stand-up comedy really helped me. And just like doing open mic nights at a random comedy places and my husband bouncing the baby, I'm just like, I don't care if I crash and burn. I just need to remind myself that I can do this, like that I can just start over. So it's weird, but I feel like I just had to do something crazy afterwards to just remind myself who I was.
Wow. That's amazing. Okay, what are you up to now? Like, if people want to hear more from you, Jess, where can they find you?
Yeah. Love to hear from you. I actually send out a text every Monday that's kind of a thought or quote or something that you can write about or journal about for your week. So you can text me the word hype to 704-228-9495. And that is like a great way to keep in touch with me too. I like check those texts and everything as well. And then I have a book called Making It Without Losing It that is coming out in May that you can get wherever books are sold. Ask your local bookstore if they can order for you. I love supporting local. So that's me. And obviously I'm also on Marco Polo because it's the best app out there.
Thank you. And Instagram and LinkedIn and all. I will put
Instagram, LinkedIn. LinkedIn is like where I feel like I spend most of my time though. So you can find me there.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being here. And thank you everybody for listening. And if you want more content like this, please comment, follow, subscribe, share, all the things to help get this into more hands.